The truth will not save you. The honest man bleeds while the liar climbs. Today I will reveal why the world bows to deception, and why those who cling to honesty become pawns in a game ruled by wolves. You live in a world that claims to value honesty, yet secretly worships the liar. Power does not belong to the man who speaks the truth, but to the one who bends it, reshapes it, and weaponizes it. History remembers rulers who deceived, generals who missiled, and leaders who smiled while hiding daggers. In this world, sincerity is not a virtue, it is a vulnerability. To survive and to rule, you must understand why deceit thrives where honesty dies. Have you ever noticed how the man who shouts the loudest about honesty is often the first to falter when opportunity whispers? The world adores virtue in theory, yet it bows to cunning in practice. Ask yourself, why is it that those who wield charm, even at the cost of truth, ascend while the steadfastly honest stumble? The answer is simple and brutal. Virtue without guile is an open door. Deception with a smile is a fortress. Consider César Borgia, a man whose ambition was only matched by his ruthlessness. He understood a fundamental law: the appearance of virtue can be more powerful than virtue itself. He courted respect, projected mercy, and wore loyalty like armor. But beneath this carefully constructed mask lay a mind sharpened for strategy, ready to strike with precision. His enemies, seduced by the exterior, never saw the dagger coming. Could honesty have served him the same way? Never. The world rewards the man who conceals his intentions beneath a guise that promises safety and comfort. Now, reflect on yourself. How often do you reveal your full hand in dealings of consequence? Do you speak every truth, every discomforting thought, as if your integrity alone is sufficient to protect you? The cold reality is this: honesty, while noble in the abstract, is a luxury the ambitious cannot afford. To be honest without calculation is to stand naked in a field of wolves. And the wolves are everywhere: partners, colleagues, even those who claim to love you. They watch, they measure, they exploit. History is littered with examples of the man undone by the absence of a mask. Take the fate of the last Roman Republic, where Cicero's forthrightness brought him acclaim yet ultimately led to his demise. He spoke truth to power, yet the power that ruled did not value truth. His enemies, skilled in duplicity, used perception as their weapon. The lesson is: clear appearances, carefully constructed, hold more sway than the cold weight of truth. Psychology confirms what history demonstrates. Humans are not drawn to unvarnished reality. Our minds prefer the comforting illusion of virtue, someone who smiles, who seems generous, who promises loyalty, over the blunt, inconvenient truths of honesty. Cognitive bias favors the charming deceiver. We trust the mask, even when the substance behind it is hollow. And so, the man who perfects this illusion becomes untouchable, revered, and feared, while the honest are dismissed as naïve, irrelevant, or weak. Imagine a court, a boardroom, or even a social gathering. Who commands attention? Not the one who lists facts coldly, but the one who projects confidence, empathy, and virtue whether they feel it or not. The mask of virtue is not mere deception. It is strategy. It is armor. It is power. To wear it convincingly, you must understand the desires and fears of those who watch you. Every smile, every gesture, every promise is a tool. Misused, and you reveal yourself. Mastered, and you bend the world to your will. But do not mistake this for tyranny or cruelty. The mask of virtue is not about villainy for its own sake. It is about survival, influence, and the control of perception. The honest man believes in fairness. The masked strategist knows that fairness alone does not move armies, markets, or men's hearts. The difference is subtle, yet fatal. One dies in obscurity. The other shapes reality. Consider modern politics. The most celebrated leaders often speak in tones of empathy, morality, and justice. Behind the carefully rehearsed speeches and calculated smiles are strategies crafted to manipulate perception, secure loyalty, and consolidate power. Their virtue is curated, their honesty selective, and the public eager to believe applauds. Does this make them evil? Perhaps not. Does it make them successful? Unequivocally. Ask yourself how many battles in your own life have been lost, not because you lacked skill, Because you lacked the mask. How often has someone advanced past you, not through greater talent, but through greater subtlety, greater projection of confidence and virtue? And here is the bitterest truth: the mask is not optional. In the world that rewards cunning, honesty is a vulnerability. Without the mask, your integrity alone will not protect you. And now, having glimpsed the power of the mask, consider this: mastery over appearances is only the first step. What comes next? How to turn that mask into a weapon capable of bending both friend and foe is a lesson more dangerous, more profound, and infinitely more necessary for those who seek to rise. Do you believe that truth alone commands respect? Think again. In every court, every boardroom, every city square, perception is the currency of power. Reality is malleable. What others see, not what actually is, determines who rules, who survives, and who is discarded like refuse. The world does not reward honesty, it rewards those who shape the narrative. Ask yourself, do you live for the truth, or for how the world perceives you? Consider Alexander the Great. His victories were not solely the result of sword and strategy, but of perception. He presented himself as a demigod, a figure larger than life. His soldiers believed in his invincibility before even stepping into battle, and his enemies hesitated, intimidated by the aura of greatness. Was his divinity real? No. Was it effective? Entirely. Perception had become his weapon, a shield and a sword all at once. He understood a crucial truth: men bow first to appearances, then reluctantly to reality. And what of Julius Caesar? He did not simply conquer lands, he conquered the minds of Rome. Every procession, every public gesture, every carefully timed display of generosity was calculated to shape how he was remembered. The truth of his ambition mattered little. The perception of him as a savior, a protector, a man of the people, mattered everything. Can you see the lesson? Those who control perception control reality. Those who allow perception to control them are its slaves. Now, reflect on yourself. How often do you allow others to define your reality? How often do you assume that truth, delivered plainly and earnestly, will suffice to command respect or influence outcomes? The answer is bitter, but necessary. It rarely does. Humans are creatures of impression, not reason. Cognitive biases blind us to inconvenient truths and elevate comforting illusions. We trust the one who smiles with confidence, who exudes virtue, even when the facts point elsewhere. We fear the one whose power seems infinite, regardless of their actual strength. Psychologists call this the halo effect. A single trait, a confident posture, a charismatic smile, an aura of competence, can color perception so profoundly that flaws and failures are overlooked. The mind does not judge in isolation. It weaves a narrative from fragments, filling gaps with assumptions, desires, and fears. In other words, what people see is often far more influential than what is real. And in this lie of perception lies your opportunity, or your doom. Look to modern history. Winston Churchill, a man of contradictions, knew the potency of image. His speeches projected unwavering courage, even when Britain's prospects were grim. His public demeanor conveyed mastery over chaos. The reality was far messier, yet his nation rallied, not because the truth was comforting, but because perception was compelling. He wielded it like a general wields his sword, cutting through doubt and fear alike. The lesson is clear. To thrive in any arena of power, you must shape perception deliberately. Speak not only for clarity but for effect. Present not only truth but the truth that aligns with the narrative you wish others to believe. Smile when they expect despair. Show decisiveness when doubt lurks beneath. Let them see the master, even if mastery is still in the making. If you can bend perception before you bend reality, you command the game before it even begins. But beware, perception is a double-edged sword. One misstep, one crack in the mask, and reality rushes in to expose you. Napoleon Bonaparte fell not for lack of military genius, but because the perception of invincibility could not be sustained. The world had seen cracks, and reality, once exposed, crushed him swiftly. Perception must be cultivated, protected, and wielded with relentless care. Ask yourself now how much of your life is dictated by reality and how much by perception. Do you shape how others see you? Or do you let their shallow interpretations dictate your fate? The moment you surrender perception, you surrender power. And here is the stark truth that follows: mastering perception is only the gateway. Once you understand it, the next challenge is far darker, more delicate, and infinitely more potent. How to convert that perception into unquestioned influence so that even the truth bends to your will. Do you believe that talent alone guarantees success? That brilliance, integrity, or skill are enough to ensure your survival in the game of life? Think again. Survival is not granted to the strongest, the smartest, or the purest. It is seized by the cunning, those who understand the rules that others pretend do not exist. Ask yourself, are you prepared to see the world as it truly is, or will you cling to comforting illusions? History does not favor the virtuous. It favors the clever. Consider the rise of Genghis Khan, a man whose empire spanned continents. He was not the strongest by conventional measure, nor the most honorable. His genius lay in calculation, in adaptation, in the ruthless exploitation of opportunity. He observed human weakness, exploited fear, and rewarded loyalty selectively. His survival, and his conquest, depended on cunning, not courage alone. And you, too, inhabit a world where subtlety often outweighs raw power. Look closer at the courts of Europe during the Renaissance. The Medici thrived not because they were paragons of morality, but because they understood manipulation. They cultivated allies, eliminated threats quietly, and presented a farce aid of patronage and civility that masked their ambition. The honest merchant or nobleman who refused to bend, to negotiate, to strategize found themselves marginalized, or worse. Could you have survived in that world by sheer virtue? Unlikely. The cunning always finds a way, and yet, cunning is not mere deceit. It is calculation, foresight, and psychological insight. It is the ability to anticipate moves before they are made, to strike when advantage is maximal, and to retreat when survival demands. Sun Tzu taught it in war, and Machiavelli himself codified it for governance. The man who masters subtlety rules more than the man who charges boldly into the fray. Ask yourself, how often do you act without considering consequence, without shaping outcomes before they arrive? That is the difference between surviving and being consumed. Psychology offers insight into why cunning is rewarded. Humans are creatures of influence, prone to manipulation by appearances, flattery, and fear. The clever exploit this predictably. They craft situations where others act in their favor, often without realizing it. A smile, a gesture, a carefully chosen word, these can secure allegiance, sow confusion, or neutralize a threat more effectively than any sword. The honest or naive, believing in the power of truth, rarely see these moves coming. They are predictable. They are expendable. Even in modern life, the pattern persists. Corporations rise through strategic alliances and careful deception. Political leaders survive scandals through calculated messaging. Social hierarchies shift not because of fairness, but because the cunning outmaneuvered the upright. Survival depends on perception, on timing, on knowing which battles to fight, and which to manufacture as victories before others even notice. You may be intelligent, hard-working, even principled, but if you cannot anticipate, manipulate, and adapt, the world will leave you behind. Consider Cleopatra, a woman who wielded charm, intelligence, and strategy with lethal precision. She aligned herself with power, shifted loyalties, and leveraged perception to secure her throne and influence Roman politics. Her survival depended not on sheer force, but on psychological mastery. Could brute honesty have preserved her reign? Impossible. Only cunning, deployed with grace, could navigate the deadly currents surrounding her. Ask yourself now in your life, how often have the cautious, the principled, or the morally rigid been trampled? Not because they lacked talent, but because they lacked cunning. The world is indifferent to fairness. It does not reward principle. It rewards the one who can bend reality, outthink rivals, and strike decisively when the moment demands. Survival is not a right, it is a conquest. And here lies the harshest truth. Cunning is not optional for those who wish to thrive. It is the difference between shaping your destiny and being shaped by it. Every decision, Every interaction, every relationship is a battlefield. The clever anticipate, manipulate, and control. The honest wait to be swept aside, but mastery of cunning alone is insufficient. Survival is the first step, but the next level, the true art of power, lies in transforming survival into dominance. How does one convert strategic calculation into absolute influence, so that even the strongest bow to subtlety? That is a question more dangerous, more profound, and infinitely more consequential than mere survival. Have you ever noticed how history is rarely written by the righteous, but by the storyteller? Who controls the story, controls reality. Power does not flow from truth alone. It flows from the narrative that others are forced to believe. Ask yourself, are you shaping your story, or are you letting others shape it for you? Because the one who dictates perception dictates the outcome of every battle, every negotiation, every relationship. Consider Napoleon Bonaparte. His genius was not only in strategy on the battlefield, but in controlling the story of his conquests. Every victory was framed as inevitable, every defeat minimized or spun as a lesson for the nation. The French people did not follow him merely because of his skill, they followed him because of the narrative he crafted. An image of destiny, invincibility, and grandeur. The truth of exhaustion, fear, and fragile alliances mattered little. Perception, carefully curated, commanded loyalty. Could the unskilled narrator achieve the same? Never. Now, look closer to the courts of the Medici. They understood that power was less about force and more about controlling how others interpreted events. A subtle rumor, a staged favor, a carefully timed gesture of generosity. All these manipulated the collective story. The honest man who acts without crafting perception becomes a footnote. The cunning who manage the narrative shape the stage itself. Ask yourself, are your actions being recorded and interpreted in ways that favor your rise? Or are you leaving the interpretation to your rivals? Psychology explains why narrative is so powerful. Humans do not process the world through objective truth, we process it through stories. We need coherence, we need meaning, we need a hero and a villain. The clever exploit this instinct. They frame themselves as the hero, or at least as indispensable, and frame others as subordinate, expendable, or misguided. The story becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Loyalty, fear, and obedience follow the script, not the facts. And the one who does not script their own story is forced to play a part written by another. Consider Julius Caesar. His triumphs were as much about perception as conquest. The populace did not see Caesar as a man. They saw Caesar as destiny incarnate, Rome's inevitable ruler. His enemies perceived him as unstoppable, and fear paralyzed them before swords ever met shields. He controlled the narrative so thoroughly that even truth itself bent to his will. Could he have succeeded through deeds alone, without crafting the story? Impossible. Deeds must be narrated to matter. Even in modern times, the lesson persists. Leaders rise and fall not merely on competence, but on narrative control. A scandal, if spun cleverly, becomes a triumph of resilience. A victory, if misrepresented, becomes irrelevant. Media, messaging, and image are the new instruments of power. Those who fail to master them are always second, always behind, always reacting. Do you see the pattern? Influence is not given. It is crafted, enforced, and defended. Look closer to your own life. How often do others control how you are perceived? Do you allow colleagues, friends, or rivals to define the story of your ambition, your intentions, your worth? Every time you fail to narrate your own role, you surrender influence. Every time you allow another to frame the story, you hand over power. The narrative is not mere words. It is a battlefield where minds, loyalties, and opportunities are won or lost. But control of narrative is subtle, requiring both patience and ruthlessness. You cannot force belief through shouting or anger. You must craft it invisibly, consistently, and irresistibly. A gesture here, a story there, a calculated reveal. These build a framework through which others interpret every action you take. And once the narrative is internalized, your influence becomes nearly unassailable. They believe it, they enforce it, and they act as though it is reality itself. Ask yourself now, how often have you been outmaneuvered, not by superior force, but by superior storytelling. How many battles in life are lost because the truth alone cannot command allegiance, fear, or obedience? The harsh reality is this: the world does not honor truth. It honors those who shape the truth in a way that others must follow. And here is the cruelest insight of all. Narrative mastery is not enough for ultimate power. Once you control the story, the next step, how to convert that narrative into absolute dominance over minds, actions, and loyalties, is a far more dangerous, subtle, and necessary skill. To understand this is to step closer to mastery. To ignore it is to remain forever a pawn in another's tale. Have you ever wondered why some rise while others, equally talented, falter? Why the ambitious, the clever, and the resourceful often fail, while the ruthless ascend effortlessly? The answer is simple and merciless. Mercy, sentiment, and moral hesitation are luxuries the world does not reward. Survival and dominance belong to those who act without restraint when opportunity and threat demand it. Ask yourself, are you willing to seize advantage when others hesitate, or will you watch from the shadows as the ruthless take what you could have had? History is littered with examples. Take Ivan the Terrible of Russia. He crushed rivals, betrayed allies, and wielded fear as a tool of governance. Was he loved? Rarely. Was he obeyed? Universally. The world does not reward those who pause to consider fairness. It rewards the one who strikes decisively, the one who converts hesitation into victory, the one who uses cruelty not for cruelty's sake, but for survival, control, and influence. Even in the Italian courts of Renaissance Florence, the lesson was clear. The Medici, skilled in strategy, understood that those who hesitate are devoured. They did not simply negotiate. They eliminated threats swiftly, often invisibly, leaving no chance for retaliation. The honest or hesitant lost influence before they even realized the game had begun. Ask yourself, when an opportunity presents itself, do you act with calculated boldness, or do you falter, letting another reap the reward you deserve? Ruthlessness is not mere brutality. It is precision, calculation, and timing. It is knowing when mercy will be a weakness, when hesitation will cost you influence, when compromise will erode your advantage. Napoleon Bonaparte mastered this principle. He did not hesitate to sacrifice thousands for strategic gain, to betray allies when necessary, or to exploit weakness without remorse. His genius lay in knowing that in the pursuit of power, moral constraint is a handicap. Ask yourself, are you willing to act where others falter, to claim what is yours before it slips away? Psychology offers insight into why ruthlessness works. Humans, moral in theory, respond to force, decisiveness, and fear. Loyalty can be secured not only by respect, but by the unmistakable clarity that hesitation will not protect the timid. The mind follows those who act with conviction, especially when conviction is devoid of mercy. Subtlety, perception, and narrative alone are insufficient, at times only bold. Ruthless action secures advantage. Consider Cleopatra. She maneuvered through Rome's treacherous politics not only with charm but with cold calculation. She removed threats quietly, punished betrayal swiftly, and exploited every opportunity to consolidate her power. Her survival and influence were not products of virtue. They were products of ruthless intelligence. Could a hesitant or morally constrained leader have maintained the throne she held? Impossible. Those who hesitate are crushed beneath the weight of opportunity seized by others. Even in modern life, the pattern persists. CEOs rise by firing when necessary, acquiring when opportune, and eliminating competition without sentiment. Political leaders consolidate power by removing rivals, controlling narratives, and exploiting weakness in ways that appear inevitable only in hindsight. Those who hesitate, who pause out of conscience, are swept aside by the relentless, the daring, the ruthless. Ask yourself in your own life, how often do you hold back when advantage lies within reach, and what has it cost you? The ruthless advantage is subtle, not chaotic. It is not wanton cruelty, but strategic execution. It is the understanding that restraint, if misplaced, is failure, hesitation, if prolonged, is death. It is the skill to act when others cannot, to seize when others will not, to dominate when others merely negotiate. Do you possess this clarity, or do you still cling to illusions of fairness and inevitability? And now, consider this: mastery of perception, narrative, cunning, all of it means little if you lack the ruthless edge. Influence without decisiveness is impotent. Control without fear is fragile. Power without action is a castle built on sand. The moment you hesitate, the moment mercy outweighs strategy, the world rewards another in your place. Ask yourself, will you act with cold precision when the moment demands it, or will you be another honest man swept aside? Because those who understand this principle do more than survive, they dominate. And those who hesitate are left to wonder, forever, what might have been. The final truth awaits: ruthlessness is not just advantage, it is inevitability. But the ultimate mastery lies in knowing when to strike and when to let others strike themselves. That is a secret so dangerous, so decisive, that few will ever live to wield it fully. Power is not given, it is seized. Influence is not earned through honesty, it is crafted, molded, and concealed. Those who bend reality, control perception, manipulate narrative, and strike with ruthless precision shape the world. The honest, the naive, the sentimental, these are the pawns. And you, if you wish to rise, must learn their secrets. Ask yourself who truly rules the room: the one who speaks truth, or the one who ensures truth bends to their design? Who survives crisis? The virtuous or the cunning who anticipate, adapt, and act before others even see the danger? You now understand the mask of virtue, the power of perception, the survival of the cunning, the control of narrative, and the ruthless advantage. Each principle alone is potent. Together, they are lethal. Do you dare wield them? Or will you remain a spectator in your own life? Comment below with the strategy you find most dangerous, and which you would dare to use. Subscribe now for more unflinching insights into power, manipulation, and human nature. Share this video, for knowledge is strongest when spread, and fear spreads fastest of all.